All right, I will call the Everman City Council Special Meeting Budget Workshop to order, July 20th, 2021, and the time is 5:46. Do I need to read that to some members?
No, sir.
Okay. So we'll just drop down. Citizens wishing to make comments should email mparks@evermantx.net, mparks@evermantx.net. Citizens' comments received prior to the meeting adjourned will be read to the council. Item 1 is consideration possible action, approve awarding the construction contract for Columbine and PD well site improvements project to the evaluated low bid provider as recommended by the city engineer to Central Texas Water Well for a total base bid amount of $772,475. It's item 21141. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 21141.
A second.
Motion made and seconded.
So this is related to the 2020 bond package. This is the new water well that we're looking to put over there by Columbine. It's called the Twin Mountain Water Well. The engineer did not only post for bids, but actually extended that posting in hopes that we would get more competitive bidders. There was only one bidder that provided a bid. And the reason for that, according to the engineer, is there's just not many companies out there right now that have the available time and interest in being able to perform this specialized work in drilling a new well. This one actually came in at close to $300,000 under the original estimate that was provided by the engineer. So we're in very good shape. The engineer has already reviewed the qualifications and so forth of the firm and the contractor and feels that they would be a good contractor to move forward with an award. And that's why he's provided that recommendation.
So this included the PD well site also?
No, that'll be a separate bid, I believe. Does it say both?
Yeah, it says both.
Yes, it is both. You're correct. I stand corrected. Too many projects.
Okay, so you want to go over the PD improvements that we're talking about? I don't think we.
Well, this would be the Columbine well and the PD improvements, both of them.
But the PD well site, that's not digging the well, that's
replacement of the storage tank. So the plan there is we have two
Okay.
old 100,000 gallon storage tanks. The storage tanks are going to be replaced with one 200,000 gallon storage tank. And I think it also includes, correct me if I'm wrong, it also includes some improvements to the building, but not much, right?
okay.
And
I
a
just want to
plumbing
make
and
sure
valves.
that's what this was. Okay, any other discussion?
What's needed to be done to the building?
What does?
Well, it's funny you asked that at this time because Gilbert just broke the news to me last week that the electrical over there needs to be redone. And the estimate provided by the electrical company on that is $56,000. So that's one thing that needs to be done that's not included with this project. But the building needs to be, I mean, we have trees growing inside of it at the PD well site.
Oh, this is what you discussed last week.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, it has significant issues. They're going to do some improvements as far as I believe just the plumbing is concerned, not the electrical, not the structural part of the building itself. So those are still going to have to be issues that we have to try to address over the next year.
Okay, and where is the money coming from?
For which part?
What you're talking about?
Well, the replacement of the tanks is coming from the 2020 bond.
Mhm.
What he's identified, we don't know where that money is going to come from yet. I have not had an opportunity to assess and see where we can finance that through or what fund we can fund that through. We're going to have to address that as a council and figure out where we're going to pull money from to make that happen.
That'll be coming soon.
Yes.
Any other questions? Poll the council.
Phase 1,
Aye.
phase 3,
Aye.
phase 5,
Aye.
phase 6,
Aye.
mayor,
Aye.
motion carried.
Next item's discussion, item 1, budget workshop.
So let me throw this caveat out there real quick. There are a significant amount of changes that went along with this, which is part of the reason why there's one part of the budget still missing. I wanted to inform council before she gets started on running through all of this. Some of the ways that we were doing some of the things before just weren't accurate. For example, administrative overhead. When we charge our special revenue funds like the street fund, the economic development fund, the water fund, those numbers were very arbitrary, and we did not have any backup to justify those numbers on why we were transferring that amount from the special fund to the general fund. So that was something that we wanted to address, and we identified that issue just last week as the question was actually raised from Michael Nicoletti about why is it this much coming out? And so as we began research, there was no justification. So we had to start building that justification and researching that on why are we transferring that much out of EDC. And the same thing for the CCD fund, the same thing for the street improvement tax, and the same thing for the water and sewer fund. Whatever money we pull out of there, we need to be able to justify why we're pulling it out of there and putting it in the general fund. So that's included within this budget, some of that. Also with that, coupled with that, was the process that we paid some of our bills. Pretty much all of our utility bills, our cell phone bills, the internet, electrical, gas, all of our utilities, the way that it was previously done is we would receive the bill. Accounts payable had a formula that was already preset prior to her being there, that she would take this bill and allocate different amounts to different funds. So the EDC would be charged a little bit in utilities for telephone. The library would be charged a little bit. And the bill, after taking a deeper dive into it, the bills weren't always being charged accurately. So that's created some problems for us as far as accurately budgeting. So the plan that we've come up with is we are going to now provide a line item underneath my budget, the administrative budget, that pays for all the utilities. So we know exactly how much in utilities, electrical, telephone, internet, we're paying. We took the bills, assessed a rough percentage of who's responsible for what. And if it's not a department and it's a fund that's responsible for it, like the water sewer fund, EDC, crime control district, then we allocate a percentage of that budgeted amount to that fund. So we're not double dipping, because not only was EDC being charged, I'm just using it as an example because that was the one that started all this. Not only was EDC being charged an administrative overhead and a transfer, but it was also being charged for the utilities. So it was almost like we were double dipping and grabbing the money from two different locations, or grabbing the money from the same location for the same thing twice. So we've corrected a lot of that, but in correcting a lot of that, that's thrown a lot of hiccups into the process. So we're going to have to visit expenditures again. So we're going to go over everything that we have that is correct tonight, and we're going to have to revisit expenditures again, particularly when it comes to the administrative budget, my budget on utilities and so forth, and how we're doing that. The majority of it is here. We've just got to figure out and iron out a couple of the little issues on things like the utilities and stuff to make sure it's done right. Make sense? Any questions about that?
Not yet.
Not yet? You could always ask.
I know.
Okay.
I wish you would. That's good.
So with that being said, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. All right. I opted for just a paper copy tonight instead of putting it on the screen, so it's easier to follow along with the expenditures. All right, we'll go ahead and start with the general fund being first. And the first page here is the summary that is the compilation of all of the departments within the general fund. I would say keep that one to the side as we work through the individual departments. All right, Mindy, we'll start with you. City Secretary. A lot of these don't have a whole lot of changes, but you can see the percentage of change in the right column. Keep in mind that you will see a significant change in workman's comp throughout basically all of the departments because those were not correctly allocated previously. So it's not that Mindy has a huge increase in workman's comp. It's not the case. And if you have the summary sheet in front of you, you can see that the city secretary budget overall had an increase of 14%. And several of those that I can highlight were an increase to the advertising budget line. We increased to 10,000
Why?
because the fees have gone up.
Last year
Is
we
the
budgeted,
primary
last
reason.
year we budgeted 4,000 and we've already been hit with $8,000 in publishing fees. In addition to that advertising and publishing line item is the line item that'll be utilized for the newsletter publications and things to go out as well.
So this covers everything that we're doing right now for publishing or for information to the community.
Yes.
Yes.
And keep in mind that we have all these new projects and stuff, and all of that has to be advertised. So we wanted to be sure that we included enough in that line item. A slight, let's see, an increase in the codification. Again, we've been having an increase in the number of city ordinance, so that fee is going to go up.
And when you look at that year to date too, I just want to highlight, when you look at the year to date, you see only $825. There's an outstanding bill because they're currently in the process of codifying a lot of our ordinances for this year. So by the end of this budget year, that number is going to jump. Just anticipate that.
And that's why I
What
provided.
about the awards and banquets? Miscellaneous? So it goes, we had budgeted 5,000, so far it's been 2,663.
So we have, and this is actually, I wish we could go over the admin budget, but this is actually compiling. We had awards and banquets kind of mixed in with a couple of different ones.
Okay,
So we're merging those essentially together into one under hers.
okay.
Also adding just I think we added a little bit too to provide some more employee recognition as well as far as employee awards and things during the year. I think in my budget, I had like $500 in mine. So I think we decided just to remove it and put it underneath hers.
For the election expense, is that enough considering, I think now you can go anywhere to vote? So does that mean everyone would have to be open every election?
We don't have to pay, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have to pay anything if we're not having anything voted on. So if we don't have any action items on the election, even though we'll have a booth here, a voting poll here, we don't have to pay for anything unless we take something to the ballot.
Which we got all of our, we got the, was it crime? We got the street deal taken care of last election. Do we have anything else coming up?
Not this year.
Okay.
And as you'll see, the janitorial service, just like you said, cleaning up some of the funds that the janitorial service was expensed out between the departments. So I have zeroed it out on this line item, and that will be under the under the janitorial service.
Well, do we need is the janitorial service needed because we have an employee for that?
Not currently, but we should still budget at least a little bit in there in case we need a specialty cleaning of some type, particularly with COVID going on. It's better to have maybe a couple thousand in there just for janitorial service in case we need some kind of specialized treatment of a facility or need somebody to come in and clean it out.
But the majority of it, yes, has been canceled out, and you will find it in the streets budget. That's where he is located.
So we're looking how much money in that? For 2,000?
In her budget, none.
None, I
Oh,
cleared it to zero.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions on city secretary? Okay. Moving on to finance. And there are several increases in this budget. as we are getting ready to separate out finance and HR. So there's some increases here that will be split between the two departments.
What is miscellaneous?
That serves as kind of like a catch-all and a buffer. If there's an item that comes up that finance would require that maybe we're already at the budget max in another line item, needs a little bit of a buffer, that's what that's for. Also, just various items that maybe get identified that we need that's not identified within the budget, it can be covered underneath miscellaneous. Just about every department you'll see has a miscellaneous line item in it for that reason.
We're expecting audit expenses to go up really high.
Just slightly.
We're gonna have to have,
Hello,
we're gonna have to have a single audit based on the federal funds that we received, in
okay,
addition to the normal audits that we receive
Wow.
over the next couple of years, probably,
yeah.
just because of all the CARES Act funds and the
Right.
CLFRF funds and everything else.
Anything over $750,000 requires a single audit. So
Computer program and I guess maintenance, is that for a new computer or
No.
service or what?
that is actually the annual fee for the STW OpenGov software that's the primary, which is over $35,000 for that.
Why did bank charges go up so much?
Ugh. That's a frustration I have. Well, for one, the amount in the bank has gone down. That's one. So therefore they prorate it based on that. But their fees have gone up when we signed the new contract. I have fought them just about every month for the last 5 months. I successfully got them to reduce the fees 4 out of the 5 months. So, yeah, it's a work in progress.
Okay, fiscal year 2021 adopted budget and then fiscal year 2021 year to date.
I'm sorry?
On the titles, the fiscal year 2021 adopted budget.
Yes,
then the
that was
fiscal-
what was originally adopted. And then the next line, the next column is the revised budget. So any line item that we had a budget amendment for that may have changed the original amount of the budget. You know, in this particular department, there weren't any. But you'll notice on some of them that those two columns aren't necessarily the same.
Well, there are other banks.
We always do hold that option to do so. Currently, we're in an agreement, I think, for, is it a year or 2 years? 2 years, wishes to pursue an RFQ, RFP for banking services. We have the right to do that.
The problem is that when we went out for bid, they were the only ones that responded. At the time, not to say that things,
Yeah, that's.
yes.
Okay. All right.
Next is city council. Not a whole lot of change here. The only thing that we added was a computer program for $500 and minor equipment for $1,000. And that's simply because, okay, I don't know what that was. With all the technology using for Zoom and, going live, we want to be sure that we have the proper equipment in here to show the council meetings.
Do you show, when you're in court, is court, on the screen as well, video?
Yes, so
Conference?
by law, they have to live stream only during the court hearing, but then once that court hearing is completed, it gets deleted. It doesn't remain up.
No, reason why I was asking that because, far as the courts, will they be charged, will they have minor equipment and computer programming as well?
Not for the equipment that's in this room. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate divvying it up. It's one thing to divvy it up between a general fund and an EDC fund, or a general fund and a crime control fund. But when we're talking about the same funds, money coming from the same location, it's easier for us to be able to, on an accounting side, just allocate those funds to one fund rather than expect accounts payable every time she gets a bill, trying to determine, does this need to be broken up? How much does it need to be broken up, and trying to assign it to different departments.
While we're on the council, is there a way that, when we, sign up for a training, that, it can come, the course can be, paid through the city?
I don't see any reason why it couldn't. If there's a class that you want to sign up for, I think if you just want to communicate with me.
Well, say for instance, like the TML that's coming up,
Mhm.
that's $400 for that course. And then you've got to pay for the hotel, which is probably another $400. And the course is not, the training is not until October.
Right. If you want to coordinate with us, you can contact either Mindi or myself, and we'll use the city credit card to go ahead and pay for those courses and register for them, and even book the hotel on them. I don't know.
They have $3,600 in that line item.
Do we have a finance policy on them checking out a city credit card when they go on training, city sponsored trainings?
Sure we do.
Okay. I'll take a look at the policy too about the checking out of a city credit card when you go to an event like that.
Because I know that if you don't attend or whatever, you have to pay for it. So you just get reimbursing the city or whatever.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll take a look at that. But yes,
There are definitely funds available to attend a class.
and I'll be honest with you, it's easier on us too when the audit comes around if we have fewer employee reimbursements, because employee reimbursements always seem to get pretty hard, hit pretty hard by the auditors. They like to look at those. So if it's a direct payment, it's so much easier for us on our end too. So that would be a preferred way for us to do it. If there is a training a council member wants to go to, if you want to contact either Mindi or myself, and we'll pay for it with a credit card and get it taken care of that way.
Okay, you have the Ward's Banquet Miscellaneous 1,600.
Yes. These are specifically for any special recognitions that you as council or the mayor wish to do, like when we do a proclamation,
Proclamations.
or
Any type of expense.
you want to award somebody with some kind of recognition as council, that's what that budget line item is for. The one that's going to be underneath it, city secretary, is for employees within the city. Y'all's is for whatever you want to do with it.
So the recent proclamations and everything that we've done through this, through our budget.
We haven't.
We
I
didn't
don't-
charge any this
Yeah,
year.
this last one, we've gotten pretty good at making a lot of things ourselves. Saves money. But if there's a plaque.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's like a
There's a
plaque
frame
or
or
a frame or something along those lines, I think
Well-
Mayor bought the last frame and we
Yeah.
reimbursed him on
okay.
those. So I mean, those kinds of things
Got
is
it.
what that fund's for.
You were
Thank you.
already reimbursed?
What's
Okay.
that?
Did
You
you get reimbursed on that one yet?
Or you haven't submitted your
I'd have to
receipt?
look. Yeah, Jennifer had it. I mean,
Okay.
Okay.
to be honest with you, I hadn't kept up with it.
No, that's fine.
It wasn't, it was like $40-something for, bought some plastic frames and then that one for Mr. Amos, Dr. Amos.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll have to look.
Okay, next, streets.
Now you took, I guess, took the money from chemical supplies.
Yes, so underneath chemical
It was
supplies,
combined with another line item.
what did we talk about there, Gilbert? Under chemical supplies for streets? I think just
We
eliminated-
did,
just
we did
eliminated
that
it.
last year. We combined that last year. That's why there's nothing in 21.
As far as chemical supplies go, there's very minimal that the street department itself uses. They didn't use anything last year. We just eliminated the budget altogether and combined what they would need after talking with Jeff and Gilbert about it. They could fit it underneath another line item.
What is utility electric? That's for the electricity?
Yes, that is one of the line items that we have discontinued.
But it's
It didn't show.
$59,000.
Oops.
Yep.
Nope. That should be a 0. Apologies.
That one and telephone should both be 0.
Yep.
Did the money ever get spent for the sidewalks, that $80,000? I think it was
It's
80,000.
for Ray Street.
Yeah.
So we just cut him his first check last week. He's come out. We're waiting on the geological study he's going to do and the aerial photos to make sure that he's identified exactly what parts of the curb and the drive approaches he's going to do. He's going to do brand new curb and drive approaches. The drive approaches will be brand new at Pittman Park. The gap there where the football, what is that building right there? It's just a storage building,
Yeah,
right?
just storage building.
Where the storage building is,
Football
and then
field.
where the Memorial Park and football field parking is. All 3 of those are going to have brand new drive approaches, along with roughly 1,900 feet of new curb along the park side.
Now that's a storage building, right? Does it need a new roof?
I don't. Does it?
Yeah, I could probably use some new shingles and new roof on it. Yep.
You want to make a note of that? Okay. So we can evaluate costs to see.
Mhm.
Was anything ever set up? You remember we had discussed some type of program for sidewalks? Was it a grant or something?
Yeah, so TxDOT does a grant annually. That grant opens up in January, and I've already done the research on it. We've been working with sam.gov to get our registration and stuff straightened out so that we can apply for it through TDM. And we will be eligible this next year to apply for sidewalk grants. So I do intend on applying for sidewalk grants, but I don't want to put that into the budget not knowing what the outcome of that's going to be. You'll also see when we do the admin budget that there is another line item that we're adding onto there that will pay for grant application assistance through Lexipol. I think it was $10,000 a year. Is that right? $10,000 a year, where we can choose. They have a couple of different funding options where we can choose to either pay, for example, $2,500, and they'll do the full grant application from start to finish. We tell them what grant we want to apply for. It's like $250 for them to just review our grant and have certified grant writers review our stuff and provide input and edits on those kinds of grants. Pretty much a $10,000 investment to get well over that in grants every year. We've had a lot of positive feedback from other agencies that utilize them, so we're going to try to push forward with that this next year as well.
On building maintenance and drainage maintenance is, the drainage maintenance doesn't, what has 2,000? Building doesn't have anything. Is that enough? I don't know what that's for, but drainage.
The drainage maintenance, that's simply just maintaining solely what we got, not adding, not altering, not editing any of the drainage. So creek clean out, if we needed some shovels and rakes, trash bags, removal of any debris in our storm drainage, if we needed to maybe hire a jet vac truck or something to go out there and blow that stuff out. So it's not anything that would cost us a whole lot.
Okay, so what is building maintenance?
any of their facilities, but the streets department solely doesn't have any building maintenance.
Oh, okay.
They specifically don't have any buildings.
Oh, I know we had discussed a building or something for the equipment. Was that in, I know it was in, I think, the plan.
It is in the capital improvement plan. yes.
Okay, did we know what year we were gonna do that?
When we get a little bit of money to be able to do it.
Well, reason why I ask, I would think that that's a priority because I know over there on Shelby, it's stuff left, equipment and stuff left outside. And
Yes,
I mean, if it's rusted and stuff, you can't use it, or either you'll be replacing it soon.
I'm gonna pull that up while we continue. So I can give you the estimated cost on that.
75,000 or something.
Yeah, it was something close to that. Of course, my computer shuts down.
Any other questions on streets? Moving on to parks.
Let me add this too. Don't confuse streets department with the street fund. There are other projects that you'll see later on when we get underneath special funds. Street fund is going to pay for other projects as well. So this is just the streets department and their day-to-day operations.
No, you're good.
The splash pad maintenance is $20,000. It's not working now, is it?
Okay,
No.
so what we did here was we took the park maintenance supplies line. You'll see that I reduced that to 10,000. Basically, we're splitting it out so that we can keep track of the maintenance cost of the splash pad. So the splash pad has 20,000 and park maintenance has 10,000.
How much have we used so far on that splash pad?
Roughly $20,000 for the last few years on maintenance, just general maintenance, plus the funds that EDC has allocated towards repairing it and any other additional funds. I mean, we've spent a good chunk, at least 150, probably closer to $200,000 over the last few years just to try to maintain that splash pad. That's
How much
why
did that cost us when we had that put in? Do we remember?
it was $1 million something, whatever that.
Well, that was for
It was
the
in the
entire
whole
park.
project, but
yeah.
I mean, just the splash pad itself.
So
I've got it somewhere.
visited.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had long conversations with both Jeff and Gilbert about that. I've just decided the rest of this year, it's a money pit right now to try to just keep it operational. They're having to replace these $200 filters every few hours. We can't continue to operate like that.
That's
think-
4 filters. Each time they
I think
replace
it'd
it.
be worth it just to put in just some playground equipment instead.
So
I mean,
we're,
because
yeah,
it's
the
costing
plan
that
is
much.
to try to find a splash pad company or a pool
Yeah.
company that'll come out here and evaluate and tell us what it's going to cost us to fix it right, and hopefully fix it for the final time and not have to worry about $20,000 a year in just maintenance for it. It's a great feature. People love splash pads. They're phenomenal to have, but that particular one is a money pit.
Well, is that what the other cities are paying for their splash pads? Have we looked into what their expenses are for their splash? pads?
No, other cities are not because this one wasn't installed correctly or
Exactly.
inspected appropriately.
Right. Wonder
So-
what Kennedale uses.
Yes, and Kennedale has the same problem with theirs.
Do they really?
Yes,
This has been shut down for years now.
yeah, theirs is not operational either.
I think it'd be just nice to have some more equipment for the kids instead of spending all that money for repairs constantly on the thing.
So are the filters, because there's a lot of debris and stuff that get caught up and that's why you have to change them every 2 hours? Or is it the filters that maintain the water sanitized for the kids to be under?
It's sanitized when they get under it. We make sure it's sanitized. The problem is from the splash pad to the tank and then back to the filtering system, it causes overwork on that system. So we're having to constantly to work on that filtering system over and over and over again.
And
It-
dirt.
it-
Maybe
and
it's
it's,
something
as
we
you
need to
said,
look
it
at.
wasn't installed properly.
They didn't use the right lines underneath the ground.
Right.
So
We
there's
suspect
dirt in the
the lines are broken, cracked. So there's dirt and silt getting into the water lines, which is clogging up all of the filters. It was not graded appropriately, so every time it rains, The rain runs right across the top of that splash pad and draws all the dirt and sand from the volleyball pits and everything else
Mhm.
right into it.
Oh.
It frankly, it was poorly designed, and it's going to cost a lot of money to fix.
I think we ought to look into doing something else eventually. That's just my opinion on these.
Capital expenditures, what is that for?
We had two projects.
I'm sorry, which one are we on? We on
Capital-
30,000 parks.
Parks and Recs.
So we had 30,000 this last year that we've utilized. The parks have continuously needed improvement. I know that that's been a topic from city council as well as is improving the playground equipment and things within the park. So because we had it in there last year, we've just kept it in there this year to be able to go out and replace any broken park equipment, upgrade any park equipment. If you notice, we've had swing sets that haven't had swings on them in a while. We're trying to get those things repaired. So we'll be able to do those things with the $30,000 available in capital expenditures.
Where's our swing sets, seats and things going? People stealing them?
No, they were previously removed just because they got so dilapidated they became dangerous.
Okay, we just never have replaced them.
Yeah,
Okay.
just never have replaced.
How many parks, we have one full-timer and two part-timers?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, one part-time is seasonal, right? One part-timer is seasonal, the other part-timer is year-round.
We increased the number of hours that they're working, so that's why you see an increase in the part-time.
How many hours does he work?
Well, right now it's vacant.
Oh, okay.
Right now, it's salary savings. No. They're budgeted for 1,664 hours a year. So basically, that's roughly 32 hours a week.
Well, could we get two? If the work is there, especially during the summer?
All the work is there.
Well-
We could get 6 or 7 and the work would be there, but it's just about,
The one part-timer is budgeted for the 1,664 hours, and then the seasonal position is budgeted for 1,000 hours. So as long as it falls within those number of hours, then it's fine.
the summer season is when the majority of the work is really, really heavy, especially when it comes to park maintenance. So that's pretty much when the third part-timer comes into play for seasonal. As the wintertime gets around, there's significantly less mowing and maintenance required and weed eating. So things slow down, and a lot of the times in the off-season, the parks guys, aside from maintaining trash and just sweeping off debris and just maintaining the parks equipment, actually spend a good chunk of their time assisting water and street crews on their projects. Could we use more people? Yes, I think we could. I just don't think we're quite there yet as far as the budgetary concerns go and being able to afford additional people just yet. But we're certainly getting there. We're getting in better shape.
With the rescue plan, could you not use some of that for temporary part-time?
Only if it's specific to healthcare or an action that we've taken and specific to COVID-19 that requires additional staffing. So I don't know, it'd be a stretch to justify parks in that one. But we can certainly use ARPA funds in other areas to help supplement and get us set up.
Oh, while we're on Park and Rec, the spot that's across the street from the parking lot on Johnson Park, where the tennis court used to be,
Yes,
do we plan on doing anything with that area? Because I don't think that that whatever used to be is there anymore.
Yeah.
Air thing, something for the air.
oh, the weather balloon? When they're,
There was some type of air monitoring.
It's monitored by TCEQ. They monitor the air, and it's just one of their stations that the previous management let them take to monitor the air in this general vicinity around here.
they still do that?
They're still doing it.
Is it still there?
Yeah, it's still there.
Okay, it has gotten smaller then, hasn't it?
No,
Okay. The reason why I was asking, had we thought about putting a tennis court back there where it was? or further down?
Not that I know of. I mean, that's a new idea to me, but
From
let me pose that one, because right as soon as we get done with budget, we're gonna jump into capital improvement plan.
Okay,
So we're gonna go into that part of the process. So let me add that one onto the capital improvement list to see if we can get that researched and added on there. We have that whole strip from Townley Drive all the way to Everman Parkway. It's all, that whole strip along that roadway is ours.
yeah, it used to be a tennis court right there.
Then we used it for junk.
Yeah.
Every so often have people bring their junk up there, then we haul it all off.
Oh, that, okay.
Yeah.
But you're saying we stored our junk there. I'm like, right?
No, we used to have
Trash
dump
city,
days there where
Yeah,
you'd
that's what
have
they do.
dumpsters there that
Mhm.
people would bring in and would fill them up.
Sorry, I'm gonna hop back on streets real quick. I just pulled up the capital improvement plan. It's 72,148 is what's on the CIP for that storage street equipment garage.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good chunk, and when we get into the street fund, let's take a closer look at that one, because I think if we were gonna do something like that, I think we would want to utilize the street fund to pay for it. But I want to keep in mind too, that we used the street fund this last year to purchase a brand new box blade and a
Right,
skid steer. I'm bringing forth a recommendation that we use $190,000 of the street fund this year to do a rebuild of Race Street from Enon all the way to Bell. So we just may want to try to make a tough decision here, and if we want to approach that this year or have to hold off on it and see what other alternatives might be. We may also look, this was for a full, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, I think you did the research on this one, or one of y'all did. This was for a full enclosed concrete foundation metal building, correct?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay. There may be a cheaper alternative out there that would be beneficial to us, like maybe just a dirt floor carport style thing that would provide our equipment some protection from the elements, but not necessarily a concrete foundation. And we can look at other alternatives if council wishes to move forward with that.
Any other questions with parks?
Yes, sorry. Okay, so the $20,000 on the splash pad maintenance. Do we
Yes.
want to decide right now what council wants to do as far as, it's going to cost 100,000 plus to fix it, I'm sure. I can't imagine it cost anything less to get a company to come in and do that. So
You could probably
Before-
rebuild it, redo it, put a new one there for that.
I think that's honestly what it's going to have to take. I think it's going to need an entirely new system. So I guess what I just want to ask from council is your guidance here. Do you want us to keep that splash pad maintenance in there? Would you like us to reallocate that $20,000 elsewhere and look at replacing that splash pad with other equipment? How would you like me to proceed there?
Reallocate it.
Yeah,
Not use it to fix it.
let's reallocate it, then if you can get a company to come out and look at it and we can get a ballpark of what it's gonna cost, then we can decide later
Okay.
how we want to proceed.
Okay. So we will remove that line item out of here for now.
Yep.
Okay.
Would a pool company be able to help in any way or just give estimate or get rid of it?
Who has previously been servicing it?
We've had, what's the name of the plumbing company that's been out?
We had Sanders came out and looked at it, but
The problem there is that plumbers are different from pool companies. And so we're trying now to locate a commercial style pool company that'll come out here and do this. I know they exist here. We have Hurricane Harbor right up the street from us. So I know that they exist. I know some business around here has the capability of addressing our issues. We just don't know who yet.
Can I
Um,
send you
the-
a company that you can call and ask?
We can, but if it's going to cost us over $50,000, we're going to have to go through an RFP, RFQ process, and we're going to have to put it out for bid, which will cost us. We're going to have to get engineers to draft the bid, publish the bid. It costs us about $5,000 every time we put something out for bid. So
Maybe they could just look at it and tell you if it was worth
Yeah.
fixing.
has our engineer looked at that at all?
no, Greg has not looked at it. Something we could get
Okay,
him to
when he
take a look
comes on
at.
Thursday, or Friday, when he comes on Friday, let's ask him to see if he can work up an estimate on that.
I have had splash pad companies look at it, and it's really hard for them to make a determination, so we never had any original plans for that splash pad. There were no plans designed for that splash pad, it was just built. There are no plumbing plans, we don't know where the drain. We know where it enters into the tank just because we've been in the tank to look at it. We don't know how the drain lines, what they look like, what they're made out of, what kind of material they are or anything. We know that when they did it, some of the drain lines they used were not supposed to be used for pressure drain lines. However, that's a pressurized system. So they're using the wrong PVC lines for the pressure system to begin with.
Not that. And
I thought we had
They-
those.
Jeff and them were told not to go out there and inspect it.
That's exactly true.
So essentially, plans were not submitted to the state. Plans were not submitted through our engineers process like they should have. It just wasn't done correctly. So we don't have an official record of those plans. We don't know how it was done, and there was never an inspection done by us. So since it's not state certified and we don't have a license for it, people don't want to touch it,
Right.
which has been one of the problems. So, but we'll remove that $20,000 and we'll determine how to go forward, and I'll bring that back to you.
Should I try to contact the company that built that and see if they have
You
anything?
can try, but
They're out
we've
of
tried and they're out
business.
of business.
Well, he still shows up at every event.
Oh, does it? Under a different name? Because we can sue him.
No, it's still the same
Well, we
company.
can't
He
sue,
filed bankruptcy.
well, we can't really sue
Now you
them
know
because
why.
Michael Box said that, when they were repairing it and when they were having problems with it, we decided to just go ahead and pay them the 25,000 or whatever that was left that we owed them, and we did it ourselves.
Okay.
We need a playground.
We never did any plumbing.
Quit
We
messing
never
with the
did
pool or anything. All right.
All right, police.
Prison food doesn't have anything on it.
So because of the new Tarrant County process, when we make an arrest, that inmate is typically in our jail for as little as 6 to 12 hours. So we don't have to feed them as often as we used to. We would have a prisoner in our jail for sometimes 3-4 days before they went through the Tarrant County process to get magistrated. Since Tarrant County has converted to a central magistration process, every arrest goes almost directly downtown and gets arraigned and booked directly into Tarrant County Jail. So our cost in that line item has dwindled down to next to nothing. Our cost last year was $100. Well, just to me, there's no reason to keep that in there. If I have to go buy some food for a prisoner, I can pull that underneath miscellaneous or one of those other line items rather than worrying about how much we're going to budget for prisoner food. It's such a small amount that it's not worth budgeting.
Okay, what is miscellaneous?
That's just kind of the catch-all. If we have any overages somewhere, if we have a body camera or something that fails that I need to order another one that we don't plan to budget for, that's a catch-all and just a safety net for this budget.
Okay, and on salary overtime,
Yes, ma'am.
looks like you lowered it.
Slightly increased. It went from 52.5 to
55.
55,000.
Yeah, we had a bad performance in 2020. We were way over budget. That 68,000 was an overage. So we upped it just a little bit.
It's worked really hard to keep that within budget this year. Again, we took out the utilities off of this.
This one is 2 pages, just
Computer program and maintenance, 38,000.
yes. So that incorporates a lot of different things. 15,000 of it is for our crimes CAD software. That's our dispatching and report management software for the police department. That also includes all of our licensing and maintenance for our radio recorder and phone recorder software. That includes, give me just a second, I'm sorry. Let me pull it up. Because I don't want to lie to you. And what all it was. You don't still have that. I didn't have a chance to hand it to you. I think I like to report it on email.
Yep.
she's grabbing where I've got it broken down to include everything. So we'll come right back to that one. Is there any other questions on the other items?
What about emergency management?
So that
We're keeping it at 5,000 and we're almost at 5,500 this year.
we're almost at 5,500. We had a kind of extraordinary year with COVID. We did buy some PPE and some other things in there. I don't anticipate that that's going to continue to be an issue this next year. That one is kind of our contingency reserve. If we come across an incident or something that comes up that we have to make a purchase to deal with that incident, such as if we got to buy specialty foam, we got to go out and buy specialty PPE to deal with a hazmat thing, any kind of emergency that pops up. That's what that emergency management fund's there for.
Well, some things would fall under the emergency declaration too, if we had to do one, right?
Yes, yeah. If it qualifies through FEMA and all the other 300 steps that we'd have to go through for the funding, but yes, it would.
So what are we getting out of minor equipment?
Typically, I'll order like 2 radios, 2 body cameras. If the officers need any replacement, taser cartridges, those kinds of things come out of that fund.
So I'm assuming that they've asked for something out of the minor equipment for this budget already?
Yes. Oh, have they?
Yes. Have they? Because I always want to ask them, because you said miscellaneous, sometimes you know, like cameras or whatever and that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, you got minor equipment too.
Mhm.
And normally they ask for something that would be covered under minor equipment for the new budget or something.
Right. So in the minor equipment, almost every year I order 2 radios, 2 body cameras to keep them cycling. So
Okay.
we've got 2 new pieces of equipment. But if I have a camera that breaks, an additional
Then you
radio
go
that
to the
breaks,
miscellaneous.
that's when I would jump over to the miscellaneous.
Okay.
Okay, on the computers and software. So 15,000 of it is our crimes cat software. That's the reporting software and the dispatch software. 1,600 of it is for what's called leads online. That's where the detectives go or have the ability to go online and search for various items that may have been sold at different pawn shops. Vistacom is $3,400. That's our recording software. Evertel is the wireless communication application for the police department. That's $900. $632 is for our historical database for our old RMS. 5,000 of it is allocated towards computer equipment. Either that could include desktop computers, laptop computers, replacements, and then $5,000 is allocated towards maintenance. 1,000 of it is allocated towards the mapping software, and then another $5,000 is allocated towards IT services, specifically Doug Keys.
So we're only putting 4,000 for building maintenance for that building? No offense, but
Yeah, I was comfortable with that one because we actually had to replace a couple of the air conditioning compressors this last
I
year.
know, but I'm
So-
thinking, is that gonna be enough for that building?
Yeah,
No offense, but.
it's no, you're fine. I think it's still in fairly decent shape. It's doing pretty good.
That's good.
21 years old this year. It's doing
Only
pretty good.
4,000 in case the roof falls in?
What
No, don't do that to me. Don't do that. We got enough. of these
Sorry
problems.
about that.
Yes.
What equipment are we leasing?
The copy machine over there. Copier and printer. The
And what,
one at the PD is leased and the one here at City Hall is leased.
and what's up on, what covers professional services?
Can I have it back? Professional services includes Del Carmen Consulting, which is our racial profiling consultant, and he does the annual racial profiling report and assessment there. That's $5,300 a year. It also includes all of the psychological evaluations for all of our police officers, all of the physical and drug screens for all of our police officers. If we have to send a victim to have a forensic interview, those are typically associated with sexual assaults, which we've seen a significant spike in over the last couple of years. Those costs come out of professional services. Pretty much any kind of contract service.
And with all these changes, police only has an increase of 3% on their overall budget for this year. Okay. Any other questions for police? Okay, let's move on to maintenance garage.
Gas, oil, and lube, is that not covered under the lease?
No, that's gasoline for the vehicles.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so we increased that just slightly. Prices continue to go up on that as well.
And when is the lease up on those?
Various times. So if you recall, Chevy went through a strike, which delayed a lot of things. We've already cycled out a couple of the pickup trucks for the Traverses. So if you see the few white Traverses that we have, we are downgrading some of our public works vehicles from 3/4 tons to half tons at the request of the staff. They just said those trucks, some of them were too big. They still wanted a couple of 3/4. The ones that we're keeping at 3/4 ton trucks, those are coming up here in just a few months. We have a meeting with Enterprise later this week to start discussing those lease options for renewal. And the other ones are going to be up for lease renewal as soon as Chevy starts building the half ton trucks, which we don't know when that's going to be.
And so how many will we lease?
Currently, altogether, we have 24 vehicles between police, public work, all the departments leased through Enterprise.
Do you know how many new ones are on the list for this year? There's one for PD, but
Yeah, just one new one.
Just one new one for
additional
PD.
one. So 20, it'll be 25. Other than that, that'll be the end of any new leases. There won't be any additional over that. All the other ones become a cycle and they get replaced.
I added building maintenance of $2,000 under this because I'm not quite sure why we took that away. Yes, the department dissolved, but there's still we're having water leaks and stuff over there. So I put $2,000 back in there at least to have something to cover some of those costs.
And what is vehicle maintenance?
That's the maintenance cost. Is that?
It's partially included in the contract with Enterprise.
So the contract with Enterprise includes general maintenance. It'll include battery replacement. It'll include oil changes, windshield wiper fluid refill. But if we have a spark plug issue or we have something above and beyond that, that cost goes on us. That's not covered under the $24 a month fee that we pay for the vehicle maintenance.
But in addition to that, that line item also covers when we have a vehicle that is involved in an accident that is not, we don't file a claim on, and we have to eat the cost of that claim. That goes into that line item as well.
Additionally, vehicles that are not on the lease program. So our big vehicles for public works, if we have to do any vehicle maintenance on our specialty equipment, the asphalt truck, fire trucks, ambulances, those aren't leased. So those get covered by that line item there.
Okay. That's not much when you're talking about larger equipment.
No, it isn't.
I will tell you though, if you notice the difference, please notice the difference. Look at the 2020 actual vehicle maintenance, 51,757. Look at the 2021 year to date, 19,169. We are seeing a significant reduction in cost of vehicle maintenance with the newer fleet that we have, and that's what we were anticipating. I can tell you this 19,000 is we've had some very unfortunate incidents this year. The asphalt truck has been in and out of the shop several times. We've had medic ambulance issues. So there's been some unfortunate things, but we're trying to address those to reduce those costs even further next year.
I think 2 small accidents that won't file.
two minor accidents.
Okay, Landon, fire department.
The bio waste disposal, there's nothing for 2022.
I always. Where is she?
She's down the bottom of page
Oh,
one.
I see.
We,
500, I believe.
did we not combine that one?
We combined
Oh,
it,
yeah.
we combined the line items.
And the medical supplies.
Yeah.
Yes. With, yes.
Yeah, the.
With,
There it is,
and.
right underneath janitorial supplies.
Mhm.
So the medical supplies line item, it was added into that one.
It increased slightly. It went from 13.5 up to 15.5. And he condensed a couple of the accounts and the bio waste was one of those.
Okay.
Okay, you decreased the oxygen supplies from 2020.
The same, that's also in that medical supplies line.
Okay.
But also, I've had tasked the personnel with searching for the best value vendor that we could to find everywhere we could save any kind of cost. So we were getting price gouged by a couple companies, so decided to bring it back locally, save some funds.
Now, the contract labor, that's the stipend.
We reduced that simply because, as I said in the CIP, it's getting harder and harder. It's almost impossible to find people to do it and volunteer to do it. So the guys we've got are very, very dedicated, but it's getting harder and harder to find those shoes to fill. So without the personnel,
And we haven't spent, this was a pilot project too. We were guesstimating on what we would spend. And we went, when we originally budgeted this, we budgeted this very high, anticipating, just so we didn't have any overages. And over the last couple of years, we've learned that we're not spending near that much, even with the contract labor to get the coverages. So we've been able to lower that the last couple of years.
So how many full-time firemen do you have?
still 6. 7 including.
The janitorial supplies, do y'all clean the firehouse yourself?
Yes, ma'am. That's home.
It's so nice to not see a new truck on here or.
No, we already did that.
He got the $1 million one, remember?
It's coming up.
Oh, Lord.
That'll be on next year.
Wow.
This is unusual for our fire department.
Yeah. I will just go ahead and add right now, if you look at the summary, he's actually reducing his budget by 4%. So good job. I like that. He's cutting it where he can. So
No, I noticed that, I think with the police department and the fire department, y'all took out the grant purchases.
Yeah, I was talking with Susan about that too. Previously, we would always budget a grant, but we don't know that we're going to get a grant. So
Right.
it's better if we're going to get a grant. It's likely going to be 100% funded grant through one of these two departments. There's not many match grants available for police and fire. Most of them are 100% funded. So when we get a grant, it's just easier to try, rather than trying to play a guessing game now of what grants we may or may not get throughout the year. When we get a grant, we'll just do a budget amendment at that time and offset it then. Because what it does is it makes it look like we have a larger expenditure budget. We're asking for more money than what we really have. And there's no sense in that when we're going to have a revenue to offset that specific amount that gets budgeted in this fund.
Now, the SAFER grant, you took that out. What was that?
That was we went for it last year, before. That's the additional staffing through the assistance firefighter grant, federal grants. That goes back to the grant writing service that the chief put into that budget. So we can hopefully find those grant funds in the future as well. But there won't be any anticipated for this year.
Capital expenditures, 0.
This year.
This year, yes. I didn't say forever. We'll talk next year.
That's up to 6 months, right?
Okay, any other questions with fire? That's a pretty good job. All right, moving on. The next one is the Annex Community Center / Civic Center.
Then you have 5,000 for minor equipment.
Yes. Okay, so we've added several new line items here. One, the janitorial supplies, which will be the toilet paper and all the stuff. Once the new building is there, we want to be sure that we have enough funds allocated for that. And minor equipment that is simply put in there because it's a new building and there's going to be some expenses that we incur as we get ready to rent it out. Then we also added $2,000 for advertising marketing to get that, again, also ready for renting out once it's done.
We can get a sign and go down and put it in front of Forest Hills building. We beat any price.
But you notice that the top 3 I took out of the budget, and those were the utilities.
I'm joking, Craig.
I'm laughing.
I took out the utilities and the janitorial service, the first 3 line items. So it kind of helps offset those new ones that I put in there.
When are they gonna tear the old building down?
Not soon enough. No, so they've had all their plans and stuff approved through the state. Right now, they're just trying to get the timeline and stuff sorted out. They haven't applied for our permits just yet. But when they do, it'll be very quick because everything's already pre-approved, engineering's pre-approved and everything. So within the next couple of weeks, we expect them to start the project over there.
How sad.
Really?
Yeah, it's been there forever.
I can't wait.
Well, no, it'd be nice to
Next time
get
we
rid
check
of
it,
it.
that's
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yes.
I remember
Yeah,
when we
they
used
did
to have
to
the
do-
haunted houses in there.
Have you heard word back on the asbestos yet?
No.
They did have to come out and test for asbestos in the building just because due to the age. They may have to do asbestos abatement, which if they do, that'll delay it just a few days. But we're planning on them breaking ground on it here pretty quick. The grand opening may get delayed a little bit. It's probably not going to be ready by Christmas like we originally anticipated. But he has assured us that he will have the exterior of that building done. So if we choose to still do our Christmas tree lighting and everything on the outside of the building, you wouldn't even know any different that the inside's not ready yet. So he's promised us that would be done by then.
Any questions on this one? It's a small little one. All right. Court.
Legal service court, there's nothing there. Did they take that out?
And do you recall why we removed that? On legal service court?
I think we combined
Did we
it.
combine
We
it?
combined it with the municipal court judge.
Okay.
And the prosecutor line items.
That's right.
So it's the same thing. There's not a whole lot of change. The reduction in the capital expenditures was the one-time purchase with the CARES Act funds for the citation, right? Yeah, ticket writers, mobile ticket writers. code enforcement. Not a whole lot of change other than just a few slight reductions on the bottom half of the expenditures.
And you'll notice under professional services and inspections, that $10,000 hasn't been utilized over the last couple of years. It's still a good idea to keep it in there in case it's needed for an abatement or a project that she may have to address.
What's that service that comes, that's, what is it, every month or every year or something?
The what now, I'm sorry?
That service, is it for the computer or something that
Which service? I'm not
Are
understanding.
you talking about the MyGov or whatever? it
Yeah.
is?
the
The
MIGA?
we
Oh, no,
still-
that's paid for out of admin.
Oh, is it?
That's out of the finance
okay.
budget.
Now, I notice on utility telephones, they've been removed from all of them except for court,
Did it not get removed on court?
What, I'm sorry?
the utility telephones.
Well,
It will.
she's still using a phone. No, just kidding. No,
Okay, so it shouldn't be on court.
I will,
No, it should not be on the court one.
Okay.
I will take it off. So she has saved even more money then. Good job.
Just dropped your expenses by $2,600.
Any other questions on the code enforcement?
Moving on to library. And took the utilities out, and as you'll see, we added a line item for advertising and marketing. We had discussed this. It's not a huge amount, but just something that if we need to send out flyers or any type of advertising for the library, they've never had funds for that, so.
Were they gonna get the money for the additional computers?
Yes, ma'am. You'll see the computer line item. We increased it from $1,100 to $7,000. So yes,
In talking with Billy, that should purchase 5 new computers this next year and cover their software and stuff as well. So they'll give them a total of 10 computers, new computers over there in the library.
and he's setting up a scheduled rotation cycle for those as well.
So they're not getting any janitorial supplies?
No, the janitorial service is now,
Well, I don't mean the service, I mean the supplies.
No, they get those from City Hall.
they have library supplies
Yeah.
and the majority of, the janitorial stuff comes through us.
Pretty much when they need something, they just ask Jennifer and she will use it. They don't require much, and they pretty much take care of the library themselves.
So
So
we need to make sure it stays clean.
they do a
He
very
does.
they do a very
He
good job.
does. But those supplies would fall under library supplies line item.
I see they got 3,000 for books. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yes, I increased that line item as well. It has been historically quite low, and we're trying to, with the accreditation and just keeping up, we really should increase that, so. Bumped it up some. And the minor equipment line item was bumped up from 700 to 2,000. And that is because we're hoping to purchase a conference room table for the conference room there. So that would be ready to rent that room out as well. So perhaps that line item goes back down next year.
This is just a general question I just noticed. Did all of the departments get the health insurance stipend?
That is available to anyone who opts out of the insurance. We don't budget that because we already budget the health insurance. So it's already a savings to the city. So
You'll see.
you'll see it on a couple of departments where we have individuals that have that. It'll show an amount, but it's offset by the medical line. Any other questions with library?
Similar.
There was never a conference room table in the conference room. It was piecemeal, some tables that got damaged with the flood. So there is no table in there. There's whiteboards and other stuff, but
There used to be one in there in where the Historical Society is. That used to be a conference room, but it's probably the desk that's in Craig's office now.
Is that where that came from?
I believe so.
It was in there when I moved in, I promise. I didn't take it. It was already in there when I moved in, I promise.
but that's not big enough anyway. So
I'm just saying, though, there used to be one in there because we used to have our budget retreats there,
Yeah, we did.
and we'd sit around the table
mm,
back before the Historical Society came in.
Will they be moving to that house or whatever?
Eventually. Not right now. The Historical Society,
Oh, okay.
because we've got to get some things done with that building before they can move in.
okay. Moving on to animal control. There's not a whole lot of change here either. Removed the utilities, and we did add a little bit in the travel and schools for some additional training. And that's it as far as changes there.
I'm good.
Do we need a recess or anything? Is everybody good?
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta go outside and thaw out.
Huh?
I said, I gotta go outside and thaw out for a minute.
Well, I can turn it up if it's cold. Is everybody cold?
No,
You know, we pay for this cold Thursday.
it actually feels good.
know.
I got on tennis shoes. Look at you.
I know I'm cold.
Oh.
Ready, Mindi? Okay, so we'll call the meeting back to order. The time is 7:60.
Oh, I'm moving quick. That's good. All right. That's it. All right, moving on to the water and sewer fund. And just like the general fund, the first page is the summary of the accounts within that, the departments within that fund, excuse me. So the first one is the water administration. And one thing you probably have noticed, pretty much across the board, the travel and schools line item has increased slightly, really pushing for more training for our guys.
We have electric and telephone maintenance.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I proofread these two, I apologize. Should we put those-
What does the water meter hydrant maintenance cover?
So that would cover the new program. We're gonna start here in Everman, so painting the hydrants, maintaining adding the oils to them that they need. Just exercising them as well.
Okay, so it went down from 2,000, it went up $1,000. That's all that's needed?
Well, this year's just gonna be a tryout, see how much we really need, because we're not 100% sure how much it's gonna be costing us. So this year we'll know for sure. We'll focus on the section, and then next year we'll be able to budget a little better to see what we need to do to get all Everman done, or at least the sections.
His plan is to implement a new, a maintenance rotation. And so that's why he's, there was no money spent so far this year, but he'd like to use 3,000 to get started with that process.
Let me add to that too. So the maintenance rotation and stuff that he's going to be implementing is pertinent to ISO ratings as well. That's something that we haven't had before and kind of dinged us a little bit on our ISO rating. So when he implements this program, we have these documentations and we get reevaluated for ISO. This will help our ISO rating to get a lower rating, which will lower insurance rates for our business owners and residents here in the city too.
Shooting for one. Hey, intended.
So for chemical supplies, 14,000 is enough?
Again, what we have spent is 10,000, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So we still good with what we got on chlorine. It's basically just chlorine that we use. We won't know exactly how much it's gonna go up on chlorine. Every year it goes up, so I think we should be good with 14,000.
And with the addition of a new water well too, the cost is obviously going to go up because now we're going to add additional chlorine to the treatment on that pump side as well. We just don't know what those costs are going to be, so we're going to have to kind of be a little flexible with that one.
Down there on the streets that they've done the water replacement, they seem to have stopped working on the streets, but the water meters are all still open. What is going on with that?
So they're having troubles getting parts. They're waiting on parts to come in and get all that covered up and get it done. I just talked to them today. So that's what they're waiting on. They say probably by, I think the email was the beginning of next month, they will get parts in. It's just so behind on parts. Everybody is.
Wasn't Chambers Creek gonna be redone also?
Yes, Chambers Creek will be the last street done on it, and that was because of the supply issue. Originally, when we began this contract, they had a supply issue with having enough to be able to do. Chambers Creek was supposed to be the first street done. They couldn't get enough supply in to get that one done. They didn't want to delay the project, so they started on the smaller side streets instead. So now Chambers Creek has been put to the end. That'll be the last street that they do.
Are they doing the courts, Steeple Ridge and Dew
No,
Creek?
there's no lines that continue on into the courts. It ends at Peppermill.
Oh, okay.
And then it's just the residential lines connect to it through there. But as
Okay.
far as the main doesn't continue down to there.
What is Fort Worth water contract?
That's the cost to have our Fort Worth connection that we have for emergency backup, essentially. That way, if all of our water wells fail or we're not able to adequately provide water pressure or water system, we can open that up to supplement that. We try very hard not to open that up because it gets very expensive when you do.
Yeah.
But we're required by TCEQ, correct?
Correct.
To have that as a backup right now.
And
we-
so
Go ahead.
utilities and electric and telephone, this is where the everything's
Yes,
going.
I
Zero
just,
them out.
you can zero them out. I marked it here to correct that.
Street maintenance, all is needed is 5,000.
Yeah, so the street maintenance is only, there's a water leak, so we go ahead and order, asphalt or base or anything that we need to fix that hole back up again. It does not have to do anything with the streets itself, so that's a different. department.
This is just patchwork.
Patchwork.
Is anything gonna be done with Shelby and Georgetown? The big holes there?
Yes, the biggest problem we've had is since the asphalt truck. They fixed it twice now, gone out to go do these patches, and it's broken down both times. So after talking with Gilbert, when was it? Yesterday, I guess. He's got an alternative plan that won't require the patch truck to be able to get out there and get some. We've got a significant number of potholes that need to be taken care of. So I know he's coordinating with Jeff on getting those addressed. 'Cause we've got a number of them.
Yes.
They're bad. We've been trying, but every time we fix the truck, we spend $1,000, we get the truck fixed, and the guys jump in it to go drive it, and it breaks down again. Last time it broke down on 1187 when they were trying to pick up the hot asphalt mix. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Of all places.
we have not had any luck in that area. That hot asphalt truck's gonna be on the auction list soon.
So we're needing a new one.
Sometime down the line, but it's not an urgent priority. He's got an alternative backup plan for the small amount of asphalt that we need that we'll be able to utilize the dump truck too. So Gilbert's got a method to his madness, and I'm gonna let him roll with it and see how it goes
Until we need a new one.
Right.
until we need a new one.
We'll see that next
Shoot for
year
the new
then.
one, okay?
But we will be looking at an asphalt truck. I think we've talked about it. Trailers are cheaper,
Yeah.
and with as little asphalt, we don't repave roads in Everman. The county's gracious enough to help us out with that, so we don't need a monster truck to repave a road for us. We just need something to be able to address the issues that we do have. That come. A small trailer, asphalt trailer is like 16 grand.
You'll also notice the salaries on this reflect the new rates that we discussed.
Yeah.
What is covered up under minor equipment?
He asked for an increase on that. There were some tools some hand tools that the guys need to do their jobs. Would fall into that category.
Okay, you have water meters and hydrants, and then you have water meter hydrant maintenance.
They're two different things.
Yeah, the maintenance covers just the maintenance supplies, the food grade lubricant, the brushes, the paint, those sorts of things. The meters and hydrants covers the actual purchase of the equipment.
Well, you don't need, should that be larger than 12,000?
He talked about how there are 3 hydrants that are going to need replacement this next year. We just ordered some spare water meters that we have now in stock, so I don't think we're anticipating a big order of water meters this next year. Again, Gilbert's kind of in a unique position. It's his 3rd week here. And we're talking about how much money do you need next year, and he hasn't even been able to identify what all needs to be done just yet. So it's been some rough conversations because we're kind of guesstimating with this one right now.
Yeah.
We're also trying to be as conservative as possible with this as far as operational concerns are, because he's identifying a lot of issues that have come up that we're going to have to address in the near future, like the electrical at the PD well, like the electrical at the high school well, and those are not going to be an expensive cost. So we're trying to be conservative with the general operating budget so we can address our urgent needs over this next year once we find out what those costs are going to be.
Oh,
It shows that,
Yeah,
that's gonna be one of those, after we approve one, then a month later, we're gonna go,
it will.
how much? Another 50,000?
Yeah.
Yes, it will. And our hope is, we have a meeting on Thursday with the engineer to discuss this exact thing. Our hope is that ARPA funds will assist us with doing some of this. And if we can get the ARPA funds to cover a lot of these immediate repairs, we'll be in great shape. The question just is whether or not they'll qualify under the EPA's guidelines to be able to use ARPA funds on it. Is specifically what our meeting is about Thursday with the city engineer to discuss this, and hopefully we'll get some good news. But if we get bad news, we're gonna have to be prepared to come back to the drawing board and figure out how we're gonna address some of these issues.
And then you get to hear, how come that wasn't in our budget to
Yes,
begin with,
ma'am.
right?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. I know.
But now we know.
What does
Now we know why.
depreciation expense cover?
the depreciation expense is actually when we depreciate any of the capital assets that's done in the fixed asset system, that vehicles, equipment. No, that's-
Just a vehicle?
Accounting rules mean she has to track the depreciation. So how much in value that item has gone down in its worth, essentially. Accounting rules dictate she has to track that, and that's all that is. It's not any actual expenditure, it's more of a, I guess,
It's not an actual expenditure.
yeah, it's more of just kind of a
It's-
liability.
It's a reduction in asset value, basically. Okay. Any more questions on this? Then moving on to the Water Sewer Administration, which is our UB.
Now, it has utilities telephone.
You're fired. Don't ask him to proofread anything. Okay, I will correct that. Thank you.
One thing that I want to point out on this one, because you're going to start seeing this on the next few as we start talking about the funds, or the admin transfers. I mentioned that at the very beginning. At the back is a breakdown. The last two pages has a breakdown. I'm sorry, the last
Mhm.
3 pages have the breakdown of where that number comes from, why the number is the way it is. And in that, as I was talking about, and we'll go over it in detail when we get back there, but if you needed to glance over to it, you can pull it out to the side and glance over to what the administrative cost is, or the
Transfer.
admin transfer cost is. It has gone up significantly in this fund. The reason why it's gone up significantly in this fund is because previously we were not allocating funds from the water and sewer fund to pay for the vehicle leases that the water department has, any of the equipment that they have. It was previously it was an arbitrary number.
Well, in addition to that, the water fund was in the negative. So therefore, he didn't want to increase the number that we were transferring out when the funds just weren't there. So that number has been corrected. And you'll see professional services, we have zeroed out that line item because again, that's one that's going to be under the administration city manager budget.
Primarily, that's only been used for IT services
Yes, in this.
in this fund.
Yeah. You'll notice in the salaries, a reduction in one and an increase in another. And that's just the reclassification of positions to part-time.
And let me cover that one too, because when we were originally talking about salaries, I talked about converting both part-time positions into both full-time positions into 3 part-time positions. After long leading discussions with Edna and how operations are going to continue, we're going to only convert one of those to 2 part-time positions. The other one's going to be a full-time position at the base rate. Because she feels like she really needs to have somebody here full-time to assist her and use the part-timers to supplement that. So that part has changed. Any other questions there? Oh,
I was glancing, but they were still reading.
oh, sorry.
Oh, that's good.
Everybody good with that one? Let's move on.
Okay. Next, sewer collections. And
Now,
every line item, with the exception of the depreciation expense, was reduced in this department. So we're just,
Why would you need less for chemical supplies?
They haven't used it
They
over the
haven't
last
used
couple of
it.
years. It's,
doesn't come out of this fund.
yeah, it's very rare that they have to use anything out of this fund for it. So they'll have that available within the water fund if necessary.
And the sewer maintenance?
Same, they've only used $510 of
That
it.
was last year. This year they've used none. So all of these line items were pretty cushioned, so I felt comfortable reducing them slightly.
The wastewater treatment, that's what we pay Fort Worth.
That's a pass-through cost, yes. So you'll see on the revenue side, you'll see a match to that. That offsets that.
Okay, moving on, debt service. This debt service, keep in mind, we have 2 separate, we have the debt service that is for the water and sewer, and we have the general fund debt service. This is for the water and sewer portion. So you'll see the 2020, the Texas Water Development and the CO bond payments were added to this. And the bottom one is the long-term note. That amount stayed the same. And the next fund is the debt service fund for the general fund. And you'll see a reduction in the 2013 line item.
This is the last year on this one.
Yes.
Is that just about paid off?
Yes, ma'am. And then the new 2020 CO bond is the third one.
What does the 2020 CO bond, which one did the 80,000 come from?
This is the general fund portion.
The fire station and the civic center, essentially.
The tax notes are listed later when we get to the economic development. No questions with that, then we'll move on to the special revenue funds. And that's any of our restricted funds. So the first page is the summary. Then the first one is the TCOL. This one's the easiest. It's the same. 1,500 in, 1,500 out. No change. Moving on to economic development. And I know this is what we have so far. I know that he is working on the budget for economic development for approval, but these were some of the changes that we. A major one, of course, would be the 2021 tax notes. The payment is listed here as an expense, third from the bottom. That's the annual payment of $78,000.
And I do want to talk real briefly, and I don't want to get deep into revenues, but as we've evaluated the EDC fund and talking with Nicoletti and the commitment that the EDC board has made on those tax notes over the next 5 years, I do want to bring forth a recommendation that we allocate the revenue for the first 5 years that we make from the Civic Center rentals to the EDC fund to help relieve some of the pressure on this for them paying those tax notes. We're estimating, I'm just ballparking, we have no idea what kind of revenue we're going to generate from this. I'm anticipating and hoping we're going to generate a significant amount of revenue. But initially, I think the first year we should ballpark somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 and allocate those back into the EDC funds to help relieve some of the pressure on this fund. They're allocating their tax funds to it. I just think it's the right thing to do for the first 5 years. After the 5 years, that tax note's paid off. And once those 5 years are complete, the revenue generated from the Civic Center can then be allocated back into the general fund. Essentially trying to make the Civic Center somewhat pay for itself.
Well, that portion of it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Traffic control supplies, is that for the markings on the street?
Where are you at? I'm sorry.
Are we on the street improvement tab?
No, we're on EDC.
Oh, okay.
Keep in mind, he has not had a meeting with EDC yet to talk about this. So he still needs to take this to EDC to get their final approval and recommendation to you to approve this one. So they're going to get eyes on it here pretty quick as well. But half of EDC's here anyway.
Only 3. We don't have a quorum.
No, not yet.
Just disclosing that. We made the changes that we could, and then they will have the final.
We did add more money to the big grant because we do have some works in, or some things in the works that, where people indicated they're looking for big grants and even our incentive project. We've got 3 or 4 projects coming along right now in various parts of the city that I've been working on, and all have inquired about incentives or big grants or whatever. So we have a lot going on and a lot that needs to be addressed in the next few months.
Even with these changes, there's a reduction in this budget. Well, overall, it's 1%, but
We have 3,000 for advertising.
yes, ma'am, that line item was added.
And the reason for that, Johnny, is, we own all this property on Race. And we really want to, especially with the Civic Center and Memorial Park and all that coming in, we really want to start marketing those properties so that we can hopefully attract people that will establish an entertainment district in those areas that we own. We'd like to see some restaurants and stuff that families can go to and have a good time while they're enjoying our parks and all the things we have to offer. Because this is going to be a great showplace really for the city, this entire block that we have.
This right here, over here on this end.
Yes, right across from Memorial Park, basically.
So where we're actually thinking about doing the food trucks and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's closer to this end.
Oh,
In
you're talking about
between-
more
in
over there
between the
by the
apartment
church and
buildings,
stuff.
yes,
Yeah.
the EDC established 3 different lots for the mobile food park.
Okay.
But this is going to be at the furthest end, closer to the church.
To the church, yeah.
Yeah, we own the corner there, and then we own all the way up to the apartments.
Got it.
And so we'd kind of like to see an entertainment district in there, some restaurants and some family type fun activities, that ice cream shops, whatever we can get in there to bring people to this area. That's the hope. So we want to start spending some money to market that idea and see if we can attract some folks in here.
So is the vending, is that going to be just seasonal?
The mobile food
Supposed to be
trucks?
all year.
Yes.
No, they'll be open year round. We've just run into a little bit of snag as far as funding for that to get the park built. That's something that we can, we eliminated the $20,000 in parks. So maybe if council wants to allocate that $20,000 back into the mobile food truck park to fund for it to be paved and provide picnic tables and gravel and that sort of thing, we could allocate the funds there. But the long-term plan for that was to have it open year round and available year round.
Because the permit's for a whole year, right?
Yes.
Remember, we changed the zoning, all this, even where the apartments are, it was all changed to, is it commercial?
Commercial.
And so if they have a fire and they say 51% of the building's damaged, they can't rebuild. But they were okay with that because they seen the value in their land, so
Fire.
it happens.
No.
But they're grandfathered in for the time being, but they decide to tear them down, then it's all becomes commercial.
Okay. Any further questions with the EDC? Okay. Moving on to the street tax. Street tax fund.
To answer your question on traffic control supplies, that's our cones, barricades, any of that sort of equipment that they need. They don't last long. People tend to run them over and damage them. So it's not uncommon for us every year to have to go out and buy replacements.
Now, does that
I see so
also
many
include
always
the
random.
paint that for the streets? Who does that?
No, so County actually does not stripe the roadways.
Okay,
So as far as roadway striping, they refer us to a contractor who we would have to pay that contractor separately. Those costs would fall underneath the street maintenance line item.
okay, so
$35,000.
do we need to increase that? Because like on Shelby, that already needs to be restriped. And also, I think, also on Forest Hill Drive too.
Right, so Shelby, we wouldn't be able to. Forest Hill Drive, yes, I agree, we do need to do some striping over there. As far as increasing the budget, yes, we need to increase it. Unfortunately, I just don't know where we would pull the funds from because this fund is very limited. EDC gets 50% of that tax, 25 of it goes to street improvement, 25% of it goes to crowd control district. And it's just not a whole lot of revenue that gets there. So if we start exceeding our revenue in this fund, there's nothing there for us to be able to do street rebuilds with.
Right, but see, that's a necessity. That's not just something
Oh, no, I'm not arguing that.
cosmetic or
I'm not
whatever.
arguing that with you. I agree with you. But I think if we're going to supplement that, we need to do that from the general fund.
Okay,
So maybe we need to, if that's something that we need to look at and council wants to add to, then we would need to do that underneath streets department, not underneath the street fund itself.
Who
I
does
think we need-
Shelby?
Fort Worth. Fort Worth is well, okay, let me
There's somebody-
rephrase. The city of Everman does it but that's actually the city of Fort Worth
Because
Street.
it's really in need of.
Yes.
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
it belongs to Fort Worth.
Yes.
Also, under the traffic control supplies was street signs. All under that.
Have you had a chance to make any contacts over Fort Worth?
Forestry signs?
No, I mean, just in the streets department,
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I can do that.
Maybe we need to get a complaint into them from us on the Shelby Road.
I'll do that for you if you like.
Tell them your name's Craig Spencer.
I have his business card.
That's probably not gonna get you anywhere, just so you know.
I gave him some of your business cards.
You want to talk about the capital expenditures increase?
Yeah, so the capital expenditures underneath this fund is $190,000. We received an estimate from Tarrant County for the rebuild of Ray Street from Enon to Bell. That amount came in at just over $182,000. So there's a little bit of a contingency in here as well, just to make sure that we don't go over budget. So I would like to bring forth the recommendation that we approve the $190,000 to rebuild North Race. South Race is in desperate need of being rebuilt as well. However, South Race will qualify for storm drainage grants that I'd like to take this next year to see if we can pursue to get some funding assistance in there, because we all know we have street flooding issues on South Race.
Yeah.
Rather than going through there and just paving over the road that we have issues on, I'd like to see if we can improve it a little bit, maybe get some federal grants that'll come in and help us out to do that. And improve our storm drainage and get the water off the roadway instead of just having it travel down the road. So I want to pursue that grant option this next year. If we don't get anywhere on a grant option, then at some point, we're going to have to address that roadway because it is bad on South Race as well.
Yeah.
If there are worse streets than Race Street, why are you doing Race Street?
Well, the only street that was listed on our CIP in worst condition was South Race. And I hate to spend $190,000 if we're not improving it on South Race. I'd like to improve it with the storm drainage, because if we come in there and we pave it and then we try to pursue the storm drainage afterwards, we're going to tear up the road to do that, which means we'd have to repave it again. It's kind of like the same principle of paving a road and then putting a water line in it afterwards. I'm trying to do things in the right order to use our funds a little bit more wisely. The other streets that were listed on our CIP were, I think, Steeple Ridge, Deer Creek, Kelly. There were a couple others. So we picked the most heavily traveled road that was listed on the CIP to do this next year.
What about this street that the police department is on? When you get down further by those homes and that business is across the street?
Are you talking about on Enon?
Yes.
Okay, so on Enon, from just on the east side of Enon Avenue, all the way down past Hickory Stick, is about to be redone by the city of Fort Worth with their sewer line. Not only, that was part of the agreement with the city of Fort Worth, was not only are they going to come in and replace the sewer line, they're going to rebuild that entire road, the whole road, not just patch. They're going to rebuild the whole road for us from just on the other side of Mark Jones' property all the way to just east of Roy C. Brooks. So that's going to be a whole new road. for
Yeah,
us
that's
anyway.
bad too, but I'm talking about, right, I think it's a cabinet company or something.
But that's part of the Roy C. Brooks area.
That's,
he's
that's,
talking
all.
about.
That's just
right?
this other side of Roy C. Brooks,
But
and they're coming all the way to
Yeah,
Roy C.
that one.
Brooks.
Yeah, that's part of where the Roy C. Brooks, stops right here
Right.
and it goes on. So that's where they're gonna rebuild from that part
Oh.
on
As
to,
long as in back supply.
Hickory Stick.
Oh,
You know where that
okay.
business is
Okay.
and where that ice maker thing is?
Right, but I
but not
thought
the
he
ice
said,
maker,
I thought he
but this
said that was
part on.
Fort Worth that was doing that part by Hickory Stick.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
they're
It
doing
is.
from there all the way to just east of Roy C. Brooks. Let me
Okay.
get with the gentleman with Fort Worth who's doing this project and find out exactly where it is that they're going to stop. We'll get out there, we'll do an assessment on the street and see if there's anything further along that maybe we need to do. Maybe we can supplement that project and just maybe work out a deal with the city of Fort Worth to have them expand their street redo if we need to and see what that would cost. I can evaluate that.
Because I remember right on the maps, they cut across there at the creek to Roy
Pretty-
C. Brooks.
Yes.
I don't think it goes down to Roy C. Brooks.
No.
on
It's
Enoch.
it's just east of Roy C. Brooks, but this side of Thompson Street. It's down there
Yeah.
right behind the bag company and all that where it cuts it
Yeah.
behind. So if it's bad at that intersection, I'll get with the city of Fort Worth and maybe we can pitch in a little bit of money and just have them continue on and do a rebuild a little further down for us since they're already going to be out there doing it. I think that would save us a ton of money to do it that way.
Yeah.
So we'll do that.
And then in front of the hall is where it starts to get bad.
You said it was right straight from Enon to Bell?
Yes, ma'am. North Race.
What about Enon to maybe Shelby in that area past the school?
So that's the part I was talking about where I don't want to allocate funds this year to
Okay.
it. I want to see if we can pursue a grant for storm drainage
Okay.
and put in storm drainage first to get the water off the road.
Okay.
I think a big thing to remember, is every patch that we have seen on the roadways with the 3 or 4 times where it got severely flooded, every patch came right up. So all that water is right underneath it. So there's nothing we're gonna do that's gonna actually truly fix the road.
Well, keep in mind too, we're fixing to have our flood study done, and once we do that, we qualify for grant money. And there's a lot of flood mitigation grant money out there that we can come in and focus on that area and try to take care of a lot of the flooding issues. So we definitely need to get that done before we come in and start doing the roads and stuff.
I think too, we need to make sure we don't have any projects to do when the city is, or whoever's coming through. Because like on Bluebell, they went through and did our street, and then they come back and dug it up for gas or something. So that like defeated the purpose.
Right. No, and we're all on the same page in that area. We're trying to make sure that the infrastructure below the roadway is addressed if it needs to be addressed before we spend any money on a roadway. That's the exact same principle why I want to do the storm drainage on South Race. Yeah.
Anything else on street? Moving on to crime control.
The equipment lease payment, that $75,000, is that what, that 75 that used to be for when we would get a new vehicle?
Yeah, so we're doing the enterprise leasing as well for the police vehicles. The police vehicles are paid for out of the crime control district fund. So that's what that amount pays for, is the lease payments for those new vehicles. Yes, traditionally, before we went to leasing, we would use CCD funds to purchase new
Right.
vehicles, but instead we're paying the lease payments out of that fund.
And the 25,000 on capital expenditures, just under that, is for this year. We're going to have one new police vehicle, and the 25,000 is to have the outfittings for the actual vehicle covered.
What is the new vehicle for?
It's to replace the last vehicle that we have that's not a lease vehicle. The K9 vehicle, K9 1 is our oldest vehicle in the fleet now. So that'll convert that one to a lease vehicle. We would sell that one off and retain the proceeds from that.
What did we do with the vehicle that we got for the COVID funds?
It's in service. That's the one that Chief Watley has.
Okay.
I am the one who responds, and I'm coordinating with the community paramedicine. That's a joint strike team that Chief Spencer put together. That's gonna do a bunch of the mobile health, community health, et cetera.
And the top two items on that we're removing from the budget because those shouldn't be paid for with crime control funds. So dues and training would be paid out of the regular general fund. So we removed them from the budget. Okay. Moving on to the 2013 bond. And this, we have no new budget for this. We have used 30,000 of the last of the money. We have about 30,000 left to spend.
Yeah, this is that $60,000 to do the curb work along in the driver coaches along Ray Street here. We've already prepaid them 30,000. The other 30,000 will be paid out as soon as they complete the work, which we're anticipating to be done before October 1. So there's no reason to budget anything out of this fund this next year. These funds will be spent, done, gone.
And then the fund will be closed out.
We'll have to spend $9 out of general fund though.
Baby, you could swing that. Okay. And the last of the special revenue accounts is the 2020 CO issue and the 2021 tax notes account. And there are no budgeted items. Now, keep in mind that, of course, all of the capital expenditures are going through here, but we're not listing them as a budgeted item because at the end of the project, the whole amount will be moved over.
What is paying agent fee?
That is from when we actually when we first got the loan this year. They charge us a fee.
A fee to do what?
To process
To
the CO,
process
take it
the-
out for bid, do the hearings.
That was Andrew Friedman and his group.
Yes.
And the last is just a copy of the administrative transfers and the changes to that. Broke these out monthly and annually. See what is covered in the monthly transfer. If you want to discuss that more, you can.
Yeah, I mean, we just took the general items that were shared amongst the different funds and or specific items like EDC, for example, the Verizon cell phone and put those direct costs in. These are all budgeted percentages of the amount, except for a few direct costs like the Verizon cell phones or the vehicles underneath the water fund or the TML liability auto insurance. Those are direct costs. We know where those costs are, so we figured those costs in to appropriately allocate the administrative transfer. Overall, there's an 11% increase in administrative transfers from the funds to general fund, primarily due to the water fund increase. All other funds saw somewhat of a decrease on those transfers. It's on here too.
Okay, I've never understood how with the city secretary expense,
Mhm.
how you separate that from you determine that from her regular salary.
Well, no, we don't determine it from a regular salary. That is 5% of the personnel cost. So 5% of the cost to employ a city secretary for her position and role as filing the minutes, tracking records, all the stuff that she has to do with the different funds. I think there's 5% allocated to each fund with the exception of the water fund, which is 10%. And that's just because of the substantial difference in the function of the funds between the water fund.
Basically, it's just getting those funds to help pay for her position because she's supporting them.
Okay, so the financial management, is that yours? Or what is the
Financial management is the software, the cost of the STW OpenGov software that we utilize to track all of the finances within all of our funds. Finance administration cost is 5% of that personnel cost. Well, 5% in some funds. I think it's more in water because it's a huge fund. Remember, the water fund is all of our water revenue, the water bill pays, all of it. That's a good chunk of our operations. And the way to think about it with each one of these is if we didn't have that fund, what would it cost us? That's what we try to figure out with these.
She helps me out a lot, so I think that's a 0.5%.
Any other questions on admin transfers? Or any of it?
Guess not.
I will make the changes that we discussed and send out the final on the administration line.
So what's next week's meeting gonna cover?
Revenues, I believe, right? Yeah, I believe it's revenues.
Okay.
And following that, we have another discussion regarding the following week work session. Yeah, following week will be work session. At that meeting, we'll have a budget workshop. We'll discuss revenues briefly and specifically the tax rate, and hoping that we have the numbers back from Tarrant County at that point. As it stands currently, we still do not have numbers back from Tarrant County, which is why revenues is always the last topic of conversation. We have to know what the tax rates are going to be. So we'll have that discussion briefly. We'll probably open up the floor at a couple of those to discuss expenditures again, because we always know that expenditures is always the big ticket item. What do you want to invest in? Where do you want to fund? Where do you want the money to go? So expenditures will always be an open discussion if that's something that anybody wants to address. So don't hesitate to bring that up at any of these meetings. We'll continue to discuss those. Revenues is kind of a fixed item. There's not a whole lot of control that we have over revenues versus expenditures, where obviously we have all the control in the world on where we decide to spend these funds.
So basically then on our expenditures, we don't have any big equipment this time.
No, you guys have done a phenomenal job at taking care of us over the last, no,
See, you messed with me.
did I?
No,
Is it the work session?
no, nothing next week. Please take the week off. Yay. Yes, I'm positive. I'm quite positive. Because we have to do the tax rates and the revenues together.
Okay. Okay, so nothing next week. It'll be the work session.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, as far as equipment has gone, we've expended funds from street fund. We've taken care of the fire department. Police department, as far as big equipment is covered with lease purchases and things. ARPA funds is gonna cover some. I'm hoping to know more about what ARPA will cover. We're gonna try to put any big ticket items underneath those funds if we can get those covered. So I think overall, we're in decent shape. We don't have
Humor
any.
says, hold his beer, because he's fixing to spend some money.
But,
We have no pictures to look at this time. nothing to see.
the big ticket items this next year are gonna be related to infrastructure. I mean, it's gonna be
Yeah.
street repair, street improvement, water system repairs and improvements. We've got allocated within Everman over probably somewhere in the ballpark of $30 million, not just our money, but county and RTC and
I
regional
think
money
it's
and
more than that,
feds.
so.
There's a lot of money going into Everman. So we're doing pretty good. We're trying not to bring anything big to your table. right now. But wait till next week when he tells me exactly what it's gonna cost to fix the water system. And we talk about that.
Or,
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It's only
In
after
2 weeks.
October, then we're gonna say, wait a minute, why wouldn't we talk about this? Why didn't we discuss this?
So
It always happens
correction,
that
so
way.
the work session, we'll talk about the tax rate and the revenues. Again, we don't know what the last 2 years, we've always gotten our information back from Tarrant County late on the tax stuff. So I don't know that we'll be able to have the public hearing and adopt the budget on August 10th, like we originally planned. We may have to push that back 1 or 2 weeks. Just depends on how we get it from county. It also depends on how comfortable you are with the budget expenditures and where we need to go, and if we need to have any further conversations or more in-depth conversations over expenditures, especially since we're gonna go back and research a couple of things and bring it back to.
Well, we need to see our revenues, estimated revenues before we can.
I will give you the number to Tarrant County. You can call them and tell them. Unfortunately, it's out of our
Under
hands.
budget.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's out of our hands.
That's why we got pushed back a week or so last year too.
Yeah.
Can you estimate compared to what, last year or the 3 months before? Because it's what, a year?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
she can
I can
guess
estimate.
a lot, but it's just a lot of work with all the other stuff
But
that's going on.
we cannot propose tax rates and move forward with that without having the final numbers.
Yeah.
It's not, we're good, as long as we have the budget approved by the end of August. So we have
I
plenty of
hope
time.
we don't have to raise tax rates this year after we slammed everybody with the water increase.
We're not
No,
we're not
no.
recommending anything like that.
No.
Not at all.
Based on what my preliminary calculations, we are not.
Good.
Well, even with the numbers they give us, we have to stay within a certain
Yeah.
parameter, or they can do a recall on us.
We're looking
Our
at
You know, it's
goal
not
is
called recall
maintaining
anymore.
the status quo
Yeah,
at this
our
point.
goal is we're investing a lot. We have been over the last year, and we are currently investing a lot of money in infrastructure, trying to get things corrected, get us to a balance point to where we can pay off this debt, lower tax rate, increase operations, increase revenue through other avenues aside from ad valorem taxes, and put our citizens and the city in a better position. That's our goal. That's where we're trying to go. I think that's your goal as well.
Well, you
Yeah.
gotta remember, our ad valorem taxes are so high because of the things that hadn't been taken care of in the past. So it's, we're having to funnel more and more money into these things. If we'd been on top of them, we wouldn't be paying $1.15 per hundred. We wouldn't have been up at $1.35 per hundred where we were at a few years back. So,
We're doing better. We're getting there. Now we need to maintain and pay off some debt, and we'll be in even better shape. And then we can start achieving the dream stuff, stuff we want to do, not just the stuff we
The
have.
bigger, better fire trucks.
Yes.
I'm out there, wanna go.
Oh, so you don't need the ladder?
No, I haven't.
We've already signed,
Yeah,
we've signed on the dotted line.
Fire truck, ambulance, something.
Fortunately, the county over the last several years has saved us on ambulances.
Yeah.
They've pretty much paid for our
I know,
ambulances. We haven't had to put up any money. So Yeah, it's been a game, but we've been able to squeeze that in with county ESD funds and been blessed there.
Anybody have anything else? Mindy, do you have any citizens' comments?
Well, I guess I need to ask you about, do you do the evaluation? Do you want that on a work session? Do you want that at the regular?
Yours?
Yeah.
I was gonna talk to you about that
Okay.
this week and see,
I just,
as long as
just
we
let me
have
know
it in
before
place.
Friday. Oh, well, no, it's next.
Well,
week.
Susan needs to know too for budget, doesn't she? So let's, yes, let's put
I
it on.
left it as is for now, calculation wise.
Okay. Let's go ahead and plan on doing that in August.
Okay.
And, I'll look, I know I've got a form somewhere. I'm gonna find something basic. I don't like that one. It's got 800 questions on it. None of them pertains to Craig, so, we'll find one for city managers and I'll get that sent out to you guys. You just fill it out, bring it in with you and be ready to leave it. So we can give him an honest evaluation. I have a feeling he's gonna do well, but I'm just wondering about the people under him.
I don't know. I spent a lot of money.
Hey, you're responsible though. All right, well, with that being said, we are adjourned. Time
Until
is
August 3rd.
8:12.
All right.
Y'all want, I'm sorry.
You said next
Sorry.
week.